Video được Việt hóa bởi Ngọc Tân từ group tài nguyên dựng phim. Nghiêm cấm các hành vi leak về rồi bán cho thằng khác. Mọi ý kiến đóng góp xin gửi về Facebook Quỳnh Ngọc Tân.
Well, I gotta say, so far you are doing a great job, so congratulations for that. You already know how to edit in Premiere, which is quite amazing. So we're going to take that a step further and start exploring how to work with video effects. So this here is where we left off from the previous video. We put some shots here in a timeline as well as a song. However, I'm just going to delete that entire sequence because I want to show you guys something. So right now we don't have any timeline, so what I'm going to do is right click, go over to new item, and choose sequence. And from here, I'm actually going to go over to the HD preset. Let's just go for that 25 frames per second. Let's give that a name, for instance, HD Iceland video, and hit OK. Now let me go over to my footage folder and look for something nice. Let's go over to video and let's take camera. And from here, let's look for a nice shot, perhaps this sheep right here. Double click on that to view the shot, and this is looking quite amazing. All right, let me make a selection from here, set an in point, go a little bit forward in time, and set an out point. And then drag the video only to my timeline. There we go. And no, I don't want to change my sequence settings. I chose to work in an HD sequence, so let's keep it that way. Hit keep existing settings. And oh no, what is going on there? Let me just zoom in a little bit more on my timeline so that we can see the clip a little bit better. And I'm also going to expand my video track here. You can just hover your mouse into that video track here, hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, and then just use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out on that track itself. But as you can see, the clip itself is also looking kind of zoomed in. Like, why is that? Why is it not looking like the source material? Well, that is because we have created an HD sequence, but we are putting a 4K image inside. You see, if this is the size of my clip, which is 4K resolution, but I'm putting that into an HD resolution sequence, I'm only seeing that middle part of my clip and not the entire clip. Makes sense, right? So what I want to do is kind of like downscale my clip so that it fits within the size of my sequence. All right, so let's see how we can do that. Within Premiere Pro, you want to locate the effects controls, and it's right here next to the source monitor. Just click on that. And like always, guys, if you can't find any of the panels that I'm working with, maybe you closed them by mistake, well, you can always locate them from the menu at top, select Window, and then from here, Effects Controls. All right, so we're in the Effects Controls, but we don't see anything in here. It's pretty empty. And that is because we have not selected any clip. It also says it here, no clip selected. So let's select our clip in a timeline. There we go. And a whole bunch of properties are appearing right now. These are settings that we can change about our clip. These are default settings, like the position right here, and we can change the position by just clicking and dragging that number. We can move the clip sideways, as you can see right here, or we can also just click on that and enter a number, for instance 300, and change the position value that way. And right here is our scale option. It's currently 100%, and we know that a 4K resolution is twice as much as an HD resolution. So I know that we have to change the scale to 50%. There we go. Now you do see this black border right here, and that is because we were playing around with the position previously. Now you can kind of like better see what's happening to the clip. Now, if you want that clip to be back in the middle where it's supposed to be, we can reset this value by clicking here on this icon or that reset parameter icon next to it. Click on that and there we go, it's back in the middle. And the same thing goes for any other property. If you want to set it back to the default, just like the scale, just reset that value like that. All right, let's set that back to 50% because we've got some more options in here and we don't need to change everything manually by working on these values. We can also just select the motion property here on top. This is a motion group property, by the way. You can also collapse that if you want so and expand it back to see all the properties that are linked to the motion. But if we select motion, you'll kind of see like an outline appear here in your program monitor around the clip. Let me just make a little bit more room for that so we can see it better. And that means that we can visually change any of these properties right in here. So I can just take the outside like that and just drag it smaller. I can take one of the corners and just rotate that clip. And my computer is just doing great with that clip. Now it should go smooth. My computer for some reason doesn't want to do that smooth. Anyways, we can also just take that clip and bring it somewhere else. And I'm really sorry for the shoppiness here. I don't know what's going on. You know, that's the thing with Premiere. One day it works, the other day it doesn't. All right, there's also a reset option for the entire motion group. So if you've been playing around with all of these settings, you can just reset that entire group like so. All right, looking good, guys. I'm going to reset the scale back to 50% because I want to work with this clip this way. All right, finally, we have opacity and time remapping, which are both going to be for a separate lesson. Opacity already for the next one, so stay tuned for that one. But I want to add some different effects in here. Like I want to make this shot perhaps a little bit more blurry, or perhaps add a little bit more contrast to this shot, because let's be honest, it looks pretty flat. Well, to do that, we're going to have to go over to the effects library, and we can find that right here somewhere. It's off my screen, so I have to press these arrows here on the right side and then find effects. This is the effects library. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to close a few tabs that I don't need, like libraries, info, markers, and history. Don't need those. All right, let's explore what we can find here in the effects library. So we've got presets, Lumetri presets, audio effects, transitions, video effects, and video transitions. So Lumetri is the color correction engine within Premiere. Again, that is for later in this course, so we're going to skip that for now. The same thing for audio effects. So let's head all the way down to video effects right here, and let's just expand that folder and see what we can find in there. So we get a whole bunch of groups. Basically, these are folders in which we can find different effects. Now, you'll see that I have a bunch of more effects that you guys don't have, such as all of these RG, Trapcoid, RG, Universe things. Well, those are third-party plugins from Red Giant in this case that I installed into my computer. So you can also find additional effects online, sometimes for free, sometimes paid, that offer a specific functionality. For now, let's just stick with the default effects in here. So I want to do some color correction, add a little bit more contrast to that clip. Well, let's go over to the color correction folder right here and see what kind of effects that we have in here. And there we go. I see an effect called brightness and contrast. Take that and just drag it over to your clip like so. And you will now see that in my effects controls, that effect has been applied to my clip, brightness and contrast. And just like with the motion property, I also get a few properties to change my brightness and contrast. So let's change those values. So contrast, let me just increase that slider and see what that does. There we go. Adding a little bit more punch to my shot, looking great. And I might want to increase the brightness a little bit too as well, just to make that shot pop a bit more like that. All right, this is great, guys. Let me play back the video and see how that looks. Isn't that looking great? Love those very cheap. All right, let's look for another effect, guys. I'm gonna go over to, let's go over to the distort folder this time. There's one thing here that attracts my attention, and that are these little icons here next to these effects. What are they? Well, these effects with that icon next to it are GPU accelerated, and that's just a fancy word for saying whenever I apply one of these effects to my clips, I'll be able to play it back in real time. Just like I'm doing here with the cheap. I can just play that back without any issues. But now let's take an effect that doesn't have that icon next to it. For instance, here the turbulent displays. Just take that, drag it onto the clip, and now it's being added here into the list of different effects. So the turbulent displays effect comes with a whole bunch of more options, and I'm going to go over all of these because really these effects are very specific, but you can always fool around with them, and that is definitely something that I can recommend to you. If you want to explore the video effects library more, just drag and drop a whole bunch of effects onto your clip, change the settings, and just see what they do. I mean, already this effect is doing something to my shot. As you can see, it's kind of like displaced all over the place. Let me just increase the amount a bit more. Let's perhaps set that to 200 so we can really see a difference going on in there. Look at that. That's ugly. All right, but now let's try and play back the clip and see what happens. Okay, it has trouble. Yeah, no, that is not going well. All right, so did it really start immediately when I pressed the space bar and it had like a little choppiness in the middle? That is because my computer is having trouble now to render that effect. And we can tell because there is this red line here above the clip. And that red line is telling you, hey, this clip right here cannot be played back in real time, or cannot be played back smoothly. And when I'm gonna go back here to my effects controls, just scroll down a little bit more, I'm gonna disable that turbulence displays effect for one moment here. We can do that by clicking on the effects button next to the effect itself. So just click on that, and now it is disabled for a moment. You can now see that that line is now yellow. Yellow means that we can play it back in real time. So then how can we make sure that if we enable that effect again, that we can play this back in real time with that effect? Well, in order to do that, we're gonna have to pre-render our video. And that is very simply done. If you go over to your timeline here, just hit the return key on your keyboard. Like that, and it will now render everything that is in red. And now it does play back very smoothly. And you can see here that the line is now green. Green is essentially the same as yellow, which means it can play back in real time, but it also means that that clip has been rendered. What it basically did was export that clip as a video file in the background, so it's somewhere on your computer right now. But it's using that small little export to play back the footage better. So that means if I'm going to change something here, let me just select that clip again, and I'm going to go over to my turbulent displays and change the amount to 100. That means now that my new setting does not match with the rendered clip. So my timeline indicator is back to red, which means I'm gonna have to render again. So every time you're gonna make changes to an effect, you're gonna have to re-render those clips. And that is how effects work in Adobe Premiere Pro. If you want to delete any of these, you can just select them and hit the delete key on your keyboard like that. Alright guys, we're getting the hang of this. Really awesome. In the next lesson, we're gonna place some clips on top of each other and actually make use of those different layers in the timeline.